Hello, students. We need to think about the skill that is communication skill. Whether we are using the skill in our communication, we just need to think how to improve our communication. Simply, as we have seen our oral written communication, in the same way, we just need to think about the writing communication. But in the entire process, we have to remove the barriers of communication. So, removing barriers of communication is also a type of improving communication. So, there is a communication gap. It means there is a breakdown in the process of communication. So, why this message get fails? There may be many reasons for this. If our communication never reaches to the students, if our lectures are not properly received by the students, it means there is a barrier or a problem in the communication process. So, what is this process of communication? In other words, we have to understand in the entire process of communication, what are the things that causes the problem, so we have to remove them in the process. So the encoded message can be transmitted effectively and can be received by the receiver. What causes the communication gap? There may be, if you are not listening properly, your thinking is muddled thinking, if your attention is not on the spoken words, lack of communication skills may come up. There are some superiors who takes the matter for granted that you have learned, you have heard some these things. Superiors are not quite clear in their thoughts. If they are not able to communicate, utter, and give the message in the proper form, then this confused thinking may cause the problem. If you don't have the communicative skills, then communication may also break down. So, there may be the problems, there may be personal problems. The communication gap between the speaker and the listener also arises. If the manager is under tension because of the domestic problems or family problems, he cannot communicate properly. So, any obstruction that hinders easy movement may be called as barrier. So, what are these barriers of communication that we need to see? We just need to identify them, whether they are the barriers of mechanical barriers. So, for online teaching is concerned, there may be mechanical barriers, or there may be physical barriers, language related barriers, social psychological, social cultural barriers. So, these barriers may come up. So, we just need to go one by one barriers of communication. Physical barriers are barriers which arises because of the environmental factors, thereby hinder the smooth flow of communication. The first type of environmental, distance and time, because they are part of nature, part of environment. Distance is physical barrier to communication. If for oral communication, the audience is at the back side of a lecture hall or theater, he finds it difficult to listen to the words uttered by the speaker. If the people receive ISD or STD call, they are talking so loudly on local fact. Time is also a barrier. If the workers are working in the night shift, cannot easily communicate with the workers who come in the morning shift because there is a time factor. Okay, time is also a barrier. If it is night in America, it is a day in India. So companies need to do the business dealings when these international counterparts are getting suitable time frame, and then they are communicating at that particular point of time. So like this. So time and distance are the types of barriers. Then wrong selection of medium. If you have chosen the wrong selection of the medium, if you're in front of deaf and dumb students and you are speaking, then it will be no use. You have to make some signs and symbols so that you can communicate in their own language. So like this. If you have selected wrong selection of, see, humidity is also one of the problem. See, when the humid conditions are there, all our signals get confused. If the temperature is rising, then it becomes very difficult to communicate because the frequencies comes and they mix up, frequency get mixed up, and that is what we have seen, that in the summer season, when the warmth is more, heat is more, in such cases lots of frequencies get mixed, so it causes that barrier in the communication process. It is physical barrier of communication. Noise is factor, as we have seen, when the communication is going on. If the communication is not audible because of some of the noise around the listener, if you are listening to this video, if the TV voice is playing loudly, if you have lots of, say, noise around you, definitely it causes the problem. So noise, internal noise, external noise, that causes the problem, and that is physical barrier of communication. Then another faulty seating arrangement. This is one of the barrier of communication that you need. The process of communication also hindered by the faulty seating arrangement in a home. If the faulty physical arrangement has been made, it prevents the eye contact, which is very effective for face-to-face communication. If the teacher in a class standing at the rear end of the classroom and student facing blackboard cannot succeed in helping the students to attend what he teaches in the classroom. So interviewer, just like putting questions to the candidate, sit in front of you, then you can. But if it is not, then there is no such a communication in this process. If these environmental or physical barriers are there, as a student we must learn that how to overcome these barriers so that we can make the communication much more effective. By clearing the environment or by clearing the disturbing forces, see that you don't have the time and distance related barriers. We can improve by taking some mechanical help, having microphone or sound system, so that we can improve our voice. Soundproof air conditioned offices, definitely it helps us as a silence zone, and by which we can improve our communication process. There are physical defects, encoders and different lisping, slip of the tongue, write and stammer. These are also physical barriers, but we can overcome by reading and writing and learning to speak correctly. In other words, one must need the communication skill, speech therapist, so that he can work on this type of, say, such a type of things. Okay, see, what do we have? Speaking in front of a mirror and practicing, then definitely we can definitely overcome these barriers and we can improve our communication skills. See, such a barriers that we see. Next type of barriers that we are going to study is that of a language barriers. And what does this language barriers mean? See, language barriers arises from the limitations of language, cultural difference. A professor who teaches a class of Marathi speaking students in English find it difficult to put across his thoughts properly because you have confused when someone speaks to you in his mother tongue. I know the difficulties that one faces when one happens to land in countries like France, Germany, Italy. If we are speaking Marathi with a speaking person, so he will not be able to understand this. What does it say? Language is, after all, a tool to express what one feels, thinks, and sees around us. Suppose if you have developed the language skills, but the other person cannot have that skill to learn and understand you in that particular language, then you will find it very difficult to get you across. See, a language is a man-made tool and it can never coin the perfect words to express all that one feels and thinks. So when we try to express ourselves, we do face a few problems. So these types of language barriers that make the communication confused and subject to misunderstanding and misinterpretations. At the same time, if the the homonyms are used, homonym is a word which can be interpreted differently in the context. Suppose English has such a words. Suppose, for example, see favor, favorable, and favorite. We have different types of meanings. We speak favorable conditions, but of a favorite personality. So, in the same way, we have 25 different meanings of each 500 most frequently used words. Suppose run, RUN, has 71 meanings as a verb, 35 meanings of run as a noun, and 4 meanings as an adjective. Such a different variety. And we have to understand that context. So, very punctual, hardworking, well behaved, disciplined, competent, these such types of words definitely use in a very different context. So we just need to understand the context to come up with the proper meaning. Otherwise, it will create a nuisance. Suppose I bank on your support. I bank on means depend upon. There was a run on the bank. See, a run along the bank of the river. He banks half his salary every month. Banks deposit. Like this. There are multiple meaning of a single word, just like bank. Such a kind of a communication that we see. Another one is under communication. If the sender and the receiver communication not communicate properly, they do not express themselves clearly. The communication therefore needs to be become vague and faulty. Murphy and Peck give an example of a good example. They have handed over a document to the assistant who is a new one. Take it to the storeroom and burn it. Burn it in official terms stands for to make a copy, duplicate copy. But the new assistant took the paper document, very important document, and set it on a fire. त्याला काडी लावून जाळून टाकलं त्या डॉक्युमेंटला. So what is this? So under communication is the problem in the communication process. Then we start denotative and connotative meaning. वर्ड्स जे शब्द असतात त्यांना डिनोटेटिव्ह आणि कनोटेटिव्ह मिनिंग असतं. डिनोटेटिव्ह मिनिंग हे लिटरल मिनिंग असतं, डिक्शनरी मिनिंग असतं. कनोटेटिव्ह मिनिंग हे इव्हॅल्युएटिव्ह मिनिंग असतं, सिम्बॉलिकल असतं. ते इमोशन्स आणि फिलिंग्सला रेफर करणारे शब्द कॉनोटेटिव्ह मिनिंग असतात. जसे शब्द गॉड आहे, स्कूल मास्टर आहे, लव्ह अँड रोमांस आहे. सी, the word schoolmaster may remind loving, considerate attitude of a school teacher. In other words, love, romance mean different things to different people. Such like this words we too have. Then varying frame of reference. As we know, everybody has a self-image. And self-image is generated out of attitude, ideas, own opinions, and beliefs. See, these attitudes, ideas, and opinions become a frame that everybody will be interpreted in the light of that frame. So we have like words Sakaram, Madrasi, Chalu, Bindas. See, these words definitely express certain frame of mind, frame of reference. Bhaiya, okay, see, bhaiye, we see, because we have a different frame of mind. Words have to be chosen very carefully when we communicate. See, the example that is we say. So we have different frame of mind that we have to think about. Then we have use of homophones. Homophones means same sounds. See, right, right. R-I-G-S-T, W-R-I-T-E. One, one. O-N-E, one. W-O-N, one. Cast, C-A-S-T, cast, C-A-S-T-E. So like this, we have these homophones which are same sound words, but we need to interpret in the right context. See, the use of jargon. Jargon means technical language or special words. So they need to be used very carefully, belonging to the particular profession. Suppose doctors, lawyers, journalists are using these types of words. So for the proper communication, we just need to understand these words in the proper context. See, like this. Inadequate knowledge of language. See, suppose an Indian with a smattering of German language will find it difficult to communicate effectively in German. Similarly, we don't have proper understanding of the English sounds or English words. So it becomes very difficult. Suppose I am teaching you this business communication subject in English language. The medium of instruction of the business communication is English. So you may, or some of the students may find it difficult to understand English. Because of what? Because there may be some inadequate knowledge of English words and grammar or sentence construction. So that problems comes into play, and that makes it difficult for the students to understand these problems. So we have these language problems that we see. How to overcome this language barriers? We just need to improve our reading, writing and listening skill as well as speaking skills too. Language is a tool. It's a man-made. You can use this language for practice purposes, using simple language, giving examples from day-to-day life, so we can definitely remove the problems that we see. So like this, these problems can be removed permanently if you work very hard. At the same time, we have to give the a kind of feedback, a kind of questions. So ask me the question. Giving feedback and asking for the questions improves our communication and makes the concepts clear. So like this, if the company employs wide range of nationalities, there may be the combination of so many words and culture and varying frame of reference. So it improves naturally the communication process. So like this, we have two types of barriers that we studied today. Other two types of barriers that we are going to study in the next video lecture. And do remember to listen to this video from the exam point of view. Thank you.